Okay, it's time to face the facts. Judas Priest is my favorite band, and I have like 19 studio albums from them, every single one they ever released. So that's quite a lot. And clearly, I don't listen to all of those albums equally. There's certain albums that I like a lot, which I tend to favor and listen to more. And then there are some other albums that I don't really care for at all, or some that I consider really mediocre. So if I could turn back time and get back to more simple era, and if I had a smaller CD collection, would it be enough to have just 3 albums per band? That's the thing I'm wondering. So let's check out some of these classic triplets or runs of 3 albums back to back and see if we could get the essence of the band with these. So do I agree with these triplets? From the 60s, I got Beatles, Hendrix, and The Who. Those would be my favorites. I guess also The Doors is kind of getting up there. So definitely in the case of Doors, the first 2 are classics, and Waiting for the Sun is pretty good. I would agree, that's a pretty good set of Doors albums. Get the 3 first ones. How about the Beatles? Well, their mid-era is usually considered the best. Albums like Rubber, Soul Revolver, Sgt. Pepper. I kind of agree those are the best ones, but I really like Abbey Road as well. So maybe I would replace Sgt. Pepper with Abbey Road myself. So that's not back to back in that case. Jimi Hendrix, I guess, Are You Experienced? Axis, Bold as Love, and then Electric Ladyland are considered the best. I really like First Rays of a New Rising Sun. I don't actually have Electric Ladyland, so I would skip that one. And then The Who, you would probably need to get Tommy, Who's Next, and then Quadrophenia. And yeah, I kind of agree. I think those 3 are the best, and that's a good sample from The Who, I think. But I would also get the Live in Leeds, their live album. I think that's a really cool album, probably. That actually might be my favorite album release. But as far as the studio work is considered, yeah, these 3 would be the correct ones. Then we get to the 70s, and there's a shitload of bands here, let me tell you. Well, Black Sabbath. First 3 are usually suggested here. And no, I don't like the first 2 quite as much. My favorites are Master of Reality, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and Sabotage. But if we skip Volume 4, yeah, that's almost back to back. But then I would also argue you need to get some Dio stuff. So that would be Heaven and Hell Mob Rules. And then arguably Dehumanizer. I think that's a pretty good album. Or if you like Mr. Martin, then Eternal Idol, Headless Cross, and Tear. So that would be a triple of triplets in the case of Black Sabbath. But it's different singers, so I guess we could argue for that. And those are back-to-back albums pretty much, if you count Dio albums as separate, because in between Mob Rules and Dehumanizer there was quite a lot of stuff. How about Uriah Heep? Salisbury, Look at Yourself, Demons and Wizards. I think that's their best stuff. I agree with that one. Deep Purple, In Rock, Fireball, Machine Head, yeah. I think that's the best stuff they did, certainly. Genesis. Nursery Crime, Foxtrot, Selling England by the Pound. Not a huge fan of Selling England. Nursery Crime is a fine album, but I like Trespass even better. So, no, not back to back. I would get Trespass, I would get Foxtrot, and Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Interesting thing though, if you can't stand Peter Gabriel singing for some reason, is if you want to hear Phil Collins, then you could get Trick of the Tail, Wind and Wuthering, and then there were 3, and I think that's kind of a logical combination of 3. Still kind of proggy albums, but getting gradually closer to the poppy stuff they did in the 80s. I actually kind of like, especially Wind and Wuthering, and then there were three. Trick of the Tail, it's kind of a hit and miss album for me, but yeah, many seem to enjoy that quite a lot, so that's got to be one of the classics as well. Then Jethro Tull, Benefit, Aqualung, Thick as a Brick. Yeah, I agree that's the best stuff they did, but you know, I really haven't checked out Passion Play that closely yet. I think also Stand Up is a pretty cool album. You should check it out. Minstrel in the Gallery is a fine one. War Child is some of the tracks are a bit on the shorter side. I don't know. If you like that kind of Jethro Tull, then you're probably gonna enjoy that album as well. Then we'll get to the mid-70s with bands like Priest, Rush, Kiss, Thin Lizzy, Van Halen, Queen. Well, with Priest it would be Sad Wings of Death, Sin After Sin, and Stained Class. Yeah, that's certainly their best album run of 3 albums, studio albums. But there's still, I mean, throughout the times there have been so many different styles, and I'm such a huge Priest fan. I guess we could argue for an 80s series, which would be British Steel, Screaming for Vengeance, and Defender of the Faith, but we just cut out Point of Entry, so that's not back to back. And then I guess 90s and after, we could have Painkiller, Firepower, and Invincible Shield. So triple of triplets, but it's with the same singer, so I guess this breaks down somewhat. But I'm just a huge Priest fan, so there you go. Rush, 21 Tell, Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres. I absolutely agree. Those 3 would be the proggy ones and absolutely the culmination of what Rush is all about for me personally. But they were really creative in the late 70s and even early 80s, so you might also go for another series of Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, and Signals, which is really high quality as well. So, yeah, it kind of works, and yet Rush seems to be so much more than just those 3 albums also, so maybe you would need more than those. Kiss, the first 3. So you've had Kiss, Hotter Than Hell, I agree with that one, and then Dress to Kill. No, Dress to Kill isn't that good. I would rather go with, I think Destroyer isn't that strong either. Rock and Roll Over. I think that would work best with Kiss and Hotter Than Hell. But if you're a fan of the 80s, I might even argue that Creatures of the Night, Lick It Up, and Animalize is the best series of 3 from them, even though it's not the classic lineup. Those would be my 3 favorites, all things considered. How about Thin Lizzy? Well, I guess people would usually say Jailbreak, Johnny the Fox, and then Bad Reputation, maybe. But for me, Bad Reputation is it's not quite as strong. Actually, my favorite album is Black Rose. And then I really like Chinatown. It's my second favorite. And I might even skip one, which is Renegade, which is not quite there for me. And have Thunder and Lightning instead, which is actually their final album. So maybe not quite back to back. No, it doesn't work. How about Van Halen? Should we go with the first 3? The first one is a really cool album, but no, the second one and even the third one don't quite hit the spot for me. I think Fair Warning is better. So I would have the first one, Fair Warning, and then either 1984 or, if you're really adventurous, maybe even go for a Different Kind of Truth, which is actually their final album. There's quite a long gap there, but I really love Different Kind of Truth. I think it might be their best studio album. I'm not a huge Van Halen fan, so I guess that has some effect. How about Queen? Sheer Heart Attack. Night at the Opera, Day at the Races. Yeah, it's a pretty cool combination of albums, but I like jazz so much. I would skip out Day at the Races and put jazz in there. But other than that, yeah, that kind of holds. How about Iron Maiden? Number of the Beast, Peace of Mind, and then Power Slave. Absolutely, yeah. Those three are my favorites. If I could only have three Maiden albums, that would be it. It would be a shame to leave out the Killers, though, and Somewhere in Time, but these three are the best. And they are the essence of Iron Maiden to me. Loudness. Devil's Soldier Land of the Law of the Devil's Land, sorry, and Disillusion. Yeah, those are the best Loudness albums, I agree. Accept, Breaker, Restless and Wild, Balls to the Wall. Yeah, absolutely the best stuff. Even though Balls to the Wall is kind of has this big arena sound and they kind of turning to this kind of really like a stadium band, I guess, at this point, sound wise. Yeah, I agree. Those are the albums where Accept is at their best. How about Ozzy and Dio, Dead Kennedys? Well, it's kind of tough because I don't really have. I think I do have albums enough from those, but with Ozzy, I think the first two albums are by far the best. Then Bark at the Moon is decent, but then again, Ultimate Sin has some things going for it as well, except for the hideous production and the stupid stage clothes they had. But I would argue that songwriting wise, I prefer Ultimate Sin actually to Bark at the Moon. And Dio, not a huge fan of Sacred Heart. So once again, you get the two really strong first albums and then a third one, which is probably not the best. I would actually go for Angry Machines rather than Sacred Heart, and that's a long way later. Dead Kennedys, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Frankenchrist, to be honest. I think I prefer all of the other full length albums better than Frankenchrist. I like the short and the fast songs, and Frankenchrist has the least amount of those. I mean, even Bedtime for Democracy has more stuff like that. So I actually prefer that one. And then Plastic Surgery Disasters is my absolute favorite, but the first one is really strong as well. So it's really good. Metallica, the first three ones. Yeah, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. I think those are the best ones. Some might go for a Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. I can kind of see that one happening as well. But for me, Kill 'Em All is. There are days when I think it's the best Metallica album they ever did, actually, because of the energy and it's so quick and hungry and yeah. The only song I don't like on Kill 'Em All is Seek and Destroy. The rest of the stuff it just works. I've just heard Seek and Destroy too many times, so it's definitely stronger for me than Justice for All, which has these really lengthy tracks on the second side, on the B side, which just I don't know, don't work for me. Megadeth, yeah, I guess most would say Peace Sells, So Far So Good, and then Rust in Peace. Personally, I would go for Killing Is My Business. It's probably still my favorite Megadeth track after all these. Megadeth album after all these years. So Killing Is My Business, Peace Sells. Then I would skip one and then have Rust in Peace. I would say that works. Also, if you like the 90s stuff and the bit more mellow stuff, more maybe you have Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings, but that's kind of stretching it. Or then, if you want newer stuff, why not have United Abominations, Endgame, then there's a gap, but then you get Dystopia. Although The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead isn't too bad either. I kind of like that one as well. It's a bit uneven in the middle, but other than that, it starts off great and it ends really well. I think it's a pretty cool Megadeth album myself. How about Slayer? Raining Blood, South of Heaven, Seasons in the Abyss. Well, I would go for Divine Intervention instead of South of Heaven, but other than that, works. Morbid Angel, Blessed are the sick. No, let's see. The first three would usually be considered the best. So that would be Ulcers of Madness, Blessed are the Sick, and Covenant. Well, actually, Formless Fatal to the Flesh is my favorite album. So I would have combination of Blessed are the Sick, Formless Fatal to the Flesh, and then Gateways to Annihilation. I think those three would be my favorite, but there's a different singer there, so singing wise, it doesn't kind of work. But other than that, yeah, I guess. Atheist. First three are usually said to be, well, they're pretty much all the stuff they made. I'm not a huge fan of the third one. It has its moments, but I don't like Elements quite that much. I would say Piece of Time is my second favorite, Unquestionable Presence only my third favorite, and Jupiter, the new one actually, is my favorite album from Atheist. So that's kind of a weird take on that. But that's how I see it. So it really doesn't work that well. Then Death. People usually say if you like death metal, go with the first three, including the classical Leprosy as number two. I'm a fan of the proggier stuff, so I would go with Human, Individual Thought Patterns, and Symbolic. And those are back to back, so I guess they kind of work. Kind of. Let's see. What else? Halford. Doesn't really work. No, War of Words, I guess, would be my third favorite. Resurrection, my second favorite, and Crucible, my first favorite. They're not back to back, and they're different solo bands and all that. Dickinson, you could make it kind of work if you have Accident of Birth and then Chemical Wedding. Those are back to back. Then he returned back to Iron Maiden, but what he released after that was Tyranny of Souls in 2005. So there's like a 5-year break, 5 or 6 year break. But there were no other solo releases between there, so that kind of works. Sorry, I'm about to sneeze. That's why I'm holding my nose. Sorry about that. Gorod. I know that doesn't really work back to back for me. I would say Leading Visions, Process of a New Decline, and Maze of Recycled Creed, so I would skip an album there. Obscura, no, I don't think so. Faceless works, but they've only released 4 albums, so I would skip the first one. And I would have Planetary Duality, Autotheism, and then In Becoming a Ghost. Vector has only released 3 albums. Hasses and Gone, same problem. Mr. Bungle, yeah, the early stuff. I don't like the newest one quite as much. It's kind of too straightforward. Mr. Bungle has to be kind of weird. So Mr. Bungle, Disco Volante, and California. And those are back-to-back albums, the first 3. So yeah, that works. Kate Bush works for me with Lionheart, Never Forever, and Dreaming. Her second, third, and fourth album. YUP, Huuda harkiten, Toppatakkia Toledon terästä, and Homo Sapiens. Yeah, I think that works. That's a cool triplet. Gillan, Mr. Universe, Glory Road, Future Shock, yeah, back-to-back albums. Motorhead, usually I guess people would say the old school Motorhead fans would say Overkill, Bomber, and Ace of Spades. Yeah, I think though that Sacrifice, Overnight Sensation, and Where Motorhead is a better run. But there I'm once again skipping Snakebite Love, so it's not back to back actually. Then Pantera. I think people would say Cowboys from Hell, A Vulgar Display of Power, and Far Beyond Driven. Well, I like Southern Trendkill better than Far Beyond Driven, so I would place that there instead. And then Saxon. Wheels of Steel, Strong Arm of the Law, Denim and Leather. Yeah, if you're an old school fan, those would probably be the best. But they have some new really cool albums as well. So probably Unleash the Beast would be one of those to consider, where they really got to this more modern metal sound in a big way in '97. Lionheart is really an amazing album. I have that one on CD as well as Battering Ram. So that's pretty cool. So, do these triplets then work? Could I just ignore everything else and just go and check these out? Well, when I'm getting to the band, yeah, this would be a great place to start. Check out the first 6 albums from any given band, if they even have that many. And then go to Metallum or some other metal archive, some kind of good site where you can find reviews and check out the scores and try to find the three albums that have the highest score. Listen to those 3 albums. And if you don't like anything there, chances are you're probably not going to enjoy the band. So, while this system of triplets isn't perfect, yes, you could probably get a pretty good picture of the band in that specific era. And, you could check out more bands than just 1 or 2. You could really instead of listening to 20 albums from one single band, you might start by listening to 1 or 2 albums from a given band, or max 3. So while you would miss some stuff, if you choose wisely, you're gonna get the best stuff like this. Absolutely. So these are a good place to start, definitely, I think. And if you choose one of these albums from those 3, you're probably gonna get a pretty good picture, considering many of these would be back to back. But while those would be really strong albums, in many cases there's at least one really cool album you would be missing from that band. And it depends on what kind of taste you have on music, but yeah, I absolutely love checking out also the other stuff. But this is a good place to start. Check out 3 albums among the first 6 of a given band and check out if the reviews are pretty good. And then just listen to those and you'll get a pretty good picture what the band is supposed to be about. Okay, that's all the time we have today, so see you on the next one. Bye.